QA. So we can connect, and we have that feedback loop between tests run at a relatively low level against requirements which might be at a very high level. So we can provide that traceability between one and the other. Let's look at these, the relationship between Business Story Manager and test frameworks in general. Is what I've shown you there is this relationship between requirements and stories. And to the left, something I haven't mentioned is concept of business goals as well. So we have like a goal network and a risk management module as well in Business Story Manager. That's beyond what I want to talk about today. But we can trace a path right from business goals to requirements to stories to generated story-based test cases. They're generated. We have manually maintained resource files which provide the translations. And for Robot Framework, this is a natural way of the architecture working. Robot Framework has multiple drivers for different technologies, and the log from the execution of tests in Robot Framework in particular, but in any framework tool, can be fed back into Business Story Manager to close the loop, to provide that feedback loop between a requirement and maybe even a business goal itself and the tests of software that support that business goal. So that's the vision for frameworks in the future, and right now we've have the interface to Robot Framework. So that's enough of the theory. Let me just walk you through the process as we're intending to use it and how we use the product sp.qa. I should say that the sp.qa is the actual URL. It's a very short URL, so we're quite pleased we got hold of that. You can see some images and some explanations of how the process works on the website, sp.qa. Okay, so let's start with the requirements. So these are a series of screenshots I'm going to show you. I can't. It's a bit too risky to do live demos on webinars, I think. I'm not brave enough to do that yet. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of the products, but these are real screenshots, and we can show you a live demo if you're interested in the future. On the left, you have a hierarchy, the tree of requirements, and you can see the requirement I've highlighted, input lucky numbers ticket. Okay, so this is a feature of a dummy applications we've created for the purpose of demonstrations, but also our own testing, I should say. Input lucky numbers ticket is a screen allowing you to submit a ticket to a national lottery. So this feature is one of many within the whole lottery system. So you can have a hierarchy of requirements, and as you look to the right, the definition of this particular requirement is there in detail on the right. So that's a requirements description. If I move to the next slide, I'm looking now at a feature which is described in one of the stories that reference that input lucky numbers ticket requirement. So on the left, you can see the feature identified, and on the right, you can see, it's rather small, I'm afraid, but you can see the detail of the story, which has as a lottery ticket retailer, I want to enter a lottery ticket so that the ticket is registered on the system. So this is the I want so that format, you can see. So now we have a feature. Now beneath the feature, if we go to the next slide, I can look at one of the scenarios. And one of the scenarios is describes invalid ticket entry, invalid tickets. So to the right, you can see the given when then format of the scenario. Given the ticket has numbers in angle brackets. When the ticket is scanned, then the ticket is accepted, accept, reject, and message is displayed. Okay, so the text enclosed in angle brackets refer to placeholders for data. So in effect, this scenario, sometimes called a scenario outline, is a template for a series of scenarios into which you can substitute data. So the data just beneath the scenario itself has three columns. You can see numbers, accept, reject, and message. This is the text of the data that should be substituted into the scenario. So if you like, these business scenarios are data-driven. Okay, so and this is a kind of a more compact way of describing scenarios rather than having many more complex scenarios. So there are usually patterns which we can rationalize and refactor our scenarios into tabulated examples which can drive a scenario outline. Okay, so that's the hierarchy from requirements through to scenarios and the data. And I've kind of skipped a step, and there's a subtle kind of change happens in the system in that we have this concept of locking of requirements and stories. When you lock a story, the business scenario is frozen in time and you cannot change it. However, the scenarios for those locked stories are copied into what we call test scenarios. And the test scenarios allow you to put in the additional detail required in order to drive a website or an application of some description. So what you have here is a test scenario which relates to to a valid ticket. I think in this case, a valid ticket on the feature input lottery ticket. So there's lots of color coding going on, and the color coding refers to two things mainly. The blue color coding identifies the placeholders for data, the data items themselves, and you can see there's a table towards the bottom of the screen. There's just one test case here, one example, one test case here. The orange and green highlighting is the dictionary doing its job. It identifies words that are defined in the dictionary.